Investors have filed a class action lawsuit against disgraced FTX CEO Bankman-Fried. A number of celebrities who promoted the crypto platform, like Tom Brady, Steph Curry, Shaquille O'Neal, and Larry David, are involved in the legal action. The lawsuit claims FTX was a Ponzi scheme that targeted unsophisticated investors through celebrity endorsements. This comes a week after news broke that the balance sheet of Alameda, a crypto hedge fund owned by Bankman-Fried, held billions of dollars worth of FTX's cryptocurrency and was being used as collateral for loans. A few hours after filing for bankruptcy, the company announced that hundreds of millions of dollars disappeared.
We also learned that Bankman-Fried was working with Congress on crypto regulation. I talked about this in my radar earlier this week. Congress had been looking recently at a specific crypto regulation called the Digital Commodities Consumer Protection Act. It was introduced in the Senate in August, passed the Senate's Banking Committee in September. That regulation was being propelled by Sam Bankman-Fried. According to Fortune, the whole thing was spearheaded by Sam and FTX. So let's be clear, a fraudster who deceived crypto users, investors, employees, and vendors to the tune of billions of dollars was the guy writing Congress's crypto rules. In Twitter, messages between Bankman-Fried and Vox reporter Kelsey Piper, the former CEO said this: "The collaboration was just PR and that regulators make everything worse." Here to unpack all of this and more is Yahoo Finance contributor Kevin Cirilli. Welcome, Kevin.
Thanks. It's great to be back. I used to work at The Hill.
Oh, wonderful.
Yeah, so it's like a homecoming.
Homecoming.
You know? Yeah.
Well, we're so happy to have you here because this is a complicated story that we're very interested in. We're fascinated in it. This guy seems a little unhinged, but maybe he's just unhinged after losing billions and billions of dollars. I don't know how you could be mentally stable after this. But.
How do you lose $1 billion? I mean, how does $1 billion go missing? I mean, that's the biggest question for regulators. But it's a complex topic, but it's pretty simple. When you go to the bank, right, you know that your money is backed by FDIC. You know you have a guarantee from your bank that there is a partnership with the government, that money is legitimate. Here's the thing. Cryptocurrency has only been around for a couple of years now, but it is completely unregulated. And that's the biggest issue here. You know, just before coming on air, there were some new statements put out by the House Financial Services Committee, led, of course, by now outgoing Chairwoman Maxine Waters, a prominent progressive from California, and the ranking member, who's soon to be the chairman, Patrick McHenry, a conservative from North Carolina. And candidly, there's a lot of alignment here that something has to be done because this has gone unregulated for quite some time. But there's a turf war. There's a turf war amongst the regulators.
But isn't he
Congress, the FTC, you've got state regulators, and folks like Sam have been capitalizing off of that disalignment.
But he's going to face prosecution, all sorts of legal jeopardy, even just under existing fraud laws.
Yes, absolutely. Yeah, and they're going to drag him in to testify, and there's going to be hearing after hearing. And we've seen this with tech, to your point, with Robinhood, for example. We've seen this with big tech CEOs. But the lack of trust in the cryptocurrency field right now is really something that candidly is going to be at the forefront for shaping regulators that we haven't seen since the credit card crisis several decades ago.
Well, Kevin, let me ask you this. You asked, how can someone lose $1 billion? My question is, how can someone get $1 billion when it's an industry that is so unregulated? This is not an unknown quantity. Why are so many people willing to invest money in these kind of companies, in crypto? And what is the relationship between that willingness to invest and some of these celebrities who are now on the hook?
Well, not just celebrities, lawmakers, and we'll get there in a second. But to answer your question directly, look, I think that it's not fair for anyone to blame the consumer or to blame the American when you have prominent C-suite level executives like this gentleman, as well as prominent celebrities who are leveraging their celebrity in order to build trust with the consumer. And so it really isn't their fault. And so I think when you have I think you're going to hear from Senator Elizabeth Warren on this. We already somewhat have, but of course, as members of the Senate Banking Committee, the counterparts to HFSC in the Senate, they're going to be looking at this. But in addition to that, this is a regulatory unknown. You mentioned celebrities. Yeah, it makes the story a lot easier to click on, and it makes the story a lot easier to follow. But out in Hollywood, I can tell you they're not laughing. Because now all of these celebrities who have massive followings online, who have signed up for these lucrative business deals and offerings, they're going to be looked at. It's not just an Instagram post. It's not just a tweet. It's an endorsement. meme stocks, right? And when I cover Wall Street and whatnot, we hear a lot about that. When you're using a social media platform, whether it's Instagram, whether it's Twitter, to integrate the rise and the fall of crypto, or dare I say even stock prices, suddenly we're in a whole new terrain.
And it wasn't just celebrities in terms of like actors and actresses. Like Bill Clinton, Tony Blair were at this conference he put on as political figures. He was paying for influence in policy making circles as well.
And this is what they do, right? I mean, when you have the significant donations to what was once described as a wonder kid of cryptocurrency, I mean, and he's wooing them and whatnot. It's just fascinating to see how quickly something can go from being just a couple of months ago the future to the front man, so to speak, of this. And look, the final point that I would note here is that even for lawmakers, when there's a new and emerging financial technology, I think this is going to give a lot of pause for folks on this.
Yeah, it's given big, what's her name with the Thanos, big Thanos vibes here.
Theranos. No, Thanos is something else.
Can I just quickly, Gary Gensler and Patrick McHenry are the two individuals who I think folks should be paying attention to. Gary Gensler, of course, the regulator of the Biden administration, he's under some scrutiny from the right for not doing enough. And Patrick McHenry, who now, as he gets that gavel in the next Congress, is really going to be driving a lot of this policy. So those are the two I've got my eye on.
All right. Well, in some more DMs with Bankman-Fried, when asked where the money mysteriously went following FTX's bankruptcy filing, the FTX founder said hack either an ex-employee or malware or an ex-employee's computer.
But he said a lot of things in these DMs. I mean, it was incredible that he was saying anything. I mean, if any lawyer would say, do not talk.
Never tweet, never email.
Again, I suspect he must be in the midst of like some kind of psychological episode to have gone through this, and maybe a psychopath in general to have lied to people to this extent. So do we know where? So he's in the Bahamas. Do we know?
They've frozen his assets.
They've frozen his assets. I've heard rumors that he's going to be arrested, or they're looking at him right now. He's
going to have to testify.
Yeah.
I think there's no question, and even more when you have, and I think a lot of folks in the financial regulatory community pay a lot of attention to New York State and New York City, just given that Wall Street is in their jurisdiction. The crypto laws that are on Wall Street are perhaps, some would argue, in the financial services community a little bit further along than some of the regulations that Congress has enacted. I think as we're looking at now the final tally of Republicans and Democrats, I actually think that there's more of a chance for cohesive consensus building on more in-the-weeds issues like cryptocurrency. And this is going to be a key area where I think folks are going to be incentivized to compromise and work together, just because this is completely unregulated. And I think even Republicans and who typically advocate for fewer regulations, I think when folks are being taken advantage of like this,
but I guess how are they being taken advantage of? They put money based on Tom Brady's endorsement into a con. Well, they lost their money. Too bad. Like, why do I care? Why should anyone care or pay for that? Like, if you throw away your money on some stupid celebrity-endorsed gamble, that's on you. I don't think the government should get in the way of that.
Robbie going in for big con men. Anybody with unlimited
we'll put the comment in.
Listen, I don't like the Patriots as much as anybody. And listen. And given his Chapter 2
don't be
career,
a moron.
But to that point, though, again, it comes back to when you invest money, when an individual invests money in the stock market, right? Mm-hmm. They have trust in the market, in the exchange, that there is a system that these folks will be beholden to. So when the market goes up and the market goes down or whatnot, there's rules of the road. I think the question now, to your point, is crypto, is the industry, is this going to be more developed like what we've seen in the past on Wall Street, or is it going to be a casino in Vegas?
Look, we'll see what happens in these legal cases, but they're going to have to allege some kind of material misrepresentations from these people so that they knew what they were advertising wasn't actually legitimate. And that's what I suspect a lot of these people will go down on. But before we wrap, I just wanted to ask you about the political dimension of this, because you mentioned that there's probably going to be some bipartisan appetite for shutting some of this kind of regulating this industry. How much of that has to do with the fact that Sam Bankman-Fried was such a prolific Democratic Party donor?
I mean, Brie, you would know better than me, right? I mean, but listen, I don't think it helps them.
Yeah.
I'm just going to come out and say it.
Yeah.
I think Republicans who typically, I mean, you would know, I think Republicans who are typically a little more wary of overregulation, when you've got a gentleman who, quite honestly, was doing a lot of wheeling and dealing on the left, I don't think it helps him. Yeah. And I think you're going to hear that. I think you're going to hear a lot of the targeted questioning of him when he eventually has to testify, coming from Republicans. Well, you gave all this money and you were taking advantage of consumers. I think that's going to be that could be the angle based on the conversations I'm having.
He has a very interesting ideology, effective altruism, that is his kind of view of how people should do good in the world. It's a very specific philosophy that I think we should talk about in greater detail. I might do a radar on that next week. Kevin, thank you so much for joining us
today. It's great to be here.
And welcome back to the Hill.
Thank you, and congrats on everything. I'm an avid watcher, so congrats.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
You guys are killing it. Seriously.
Thank you. Well, we'll have more Rising right after this. Stay with us.